Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Fake Nerd Book Club. This is one of our bi-weekly rotational episodes. It is my turn to discuss a comic, but I am Brandon T. McClure, and I am joined with Ben Magnet.
Hello, I am the architect of the pixels.
Sparks Whitty.
I could feel the architect of our podcast system almost say podcast instead of book club at the beginning.
And Ryan Eliopoulos.
I'm the architect. They're just having a good time and good vibes, baby. Comic books.
We are here to talk about, and you're neither right nor wrong, Sparks. I will not confirm nor deny. We are here to talk about S.H.I.E.L.D, Architects of Forever, which collects S.H.I.E.L.D 1 through 6, written by Jonathan Hickman. The reason why I picked this one, because we did Hickman on the last book club, with art by Dustin Weaver. This is a Hickman book which tells the origin stories, the untold origin stories of S.H.I.E.L.D. And it's Leonardo da Vinci inspired origins. I really, really dug this book. Obviously, I love Jonathan Hickman, so I was kind of primed for this one. Ryan has been talking about this book for many, many years, just in our friendship, and I was really happy to finally read this one. What did you guys think?
I'll go first because I was familiar with this book. Volume 2 has a rocky history of getting released, so I haven't read Volume 2 yet, but Volume 1 I'm pretty familiar with. I think this is a really, really bold and fun book. I don't think it's quite as tight as some of the other Hickman books, but that is by no means a negative. I think just like I need to read Volume 2 to see some of the stuff get ironed out. But man, like, this dude just operates on a different level than other people sometimes. And like to make big swings, you have to execute it well. And I think he just does. Like, having all of these famous people interact with all of these Marvel things, like the untold history of S.H.I.E.L.D, and like we don't see we don't see no Nick Fury, Marie Hill, anything that we know about S.H.I.E.L.D. This is like the S.H.I.E.L.D. below S.H.I.E.L.D. And it's, again, Hickman is so good at like these like clandestine operations and like these seedy people and stuff like that. So like, I think this book's a lot of fun. I think Dustin Weaver's so good, and he only gets better and better over time. I think this book is a ton of fun.
Sparks or Ben?
I think it's a cool concept. Mm-hmm. And I think ultimately I end up liking the art more than I like the story.
Sure.
That could potentially be because it's quite incomplete at 6 issues. Very little has been fully developed and brought to its full face revelation. I think the only thing that you have like true clarity on is Newton. And outside of that, it's like there's a lot of like things up in the air here that I'm not really sure where we're going with it.
It is like half a story, kind of.
And that makes it hard because it feels like really big concept. There's a lot of setup, and it's like if Heroes was stopped halfway through the first season or something.
Sure.
Where like, oh, I've gotten all this, playthrough, and I'm like, I don't know where any of that was going.
Yeah.
And but I love the art. I love the interpretation of all this stuff for the Marvel world that they're doing with Da Vinci. Like, I think the art's incredible, and I kind of like it just for the concept of that existing alone, to have that art. Mm-hmm. But I didn't. This maybe felt the most of Hickman's. Like, my concept went a little bit up its own ass.
Sure.
And in a way where I'm like, I don't know. I'm not saying it's bad, but I am saying like I think we maybe lost the thread of like, what are we doing here? Yeah. And it gets a little. There are a couple of tiny sections where I was like, well, this feels like we're just saying things to say pontificating things. Mm-hmm. And I don't actually entirely believe there's direct intent behind this one, Hickman, the way I do with some later developments, which in some ways is like what we talked about last time when we talked about the Ultimate Comics. It's like Hickman using as a proving ground for things he would do later. There's clearly ideas here that were developed in different ways and more well thought out and articulated to the characters that he was using it with in later pieces of his work. Mm-hmm. This feels very rough drafty to me.
Sure.
Yeah.
Ben?
I really enjoyed this book. I do see the things that Sparks is saying, but when I was reading it, I was just taking it as this is Hickman's level of weird. When I read stuff from Jonathan Hickman, I mean, I know I haven't read a whole lot of stuff from Hickman, mostly just Hoxpox and the Ultimates book that we read a while ago. Hickman has a style, and he has I think like he has very high concepts, if that makes any sense. He does love his big, like, over the top, these grandeur, these like very grandiose concepts. And if you had told, if you like just taken the Marvel stuff out of this book, I was like, this would be like a cool, like, what if story of just playing around with some of the most famous historical figures ever. But the fact that these historical figures are also involved, like fighting Galactus, the Brood, and all these other characters, I'm like, this is actually kind of cool. Because I think the execution in this also, I would say that yes, this does kind of feel incomplete, especially when we get to the very last page. I'm like, I want to see more, because the whole time I'm wondering who is this light dude, and then it turns out he's freaking Michelangelo.
It's the best Ninja Turtle.
Yeah. But I do agree that the story does feel incomplete, but thankfully there is like a to be continued in part 2. So I'm like, I have a feeling that when I read that second half, everything will just meld together. It's like, okay, here's the whole story. Here's the whole piece that I was looking for. Because there were some parts where I'm just reading it, and I do feel like there's a lot of times where Hickman decides to throw big words just to throw in big words. And even I'm like, what? It's like when you're in it's like when you're in college, you're trying to sit in a philosophy class, and the professor's just rambling on stuff, but all the other students are like, oh, yes, yes, yes. And you're sitting there going, can you say that again, but in English?
Yeah. I will agree with Sparks in that I think the plot itself about Leonid, our guy, and everything he's going through, and all the machinations that happen with him and his family and all that stuff, I think some of that is really messy. The thing that I just really gravitate towards is like, I'm a huge Marvel Universe guy. I love the Marvel Universe. I love it a lot. Like the ins and outs, and like seeing the Starks and the Richards here. Like this is all stuff that Hickman is tying into his Fantastic Four stuff. So like him being here makes sense. Where like it is solving a question from 5 years ago in this book. And that's only something that people who read his other stuff will get anything out of, where it's just, oh, look, that's Nathaniel Richards. Like I guess that's cool. But like, for me, like it is Hickman, just like, his plots aren't always the best. I think his Avengers run is really, really great, but it's incredibly messy. But it is more vibes based, if anything. And this book, it's just like, hey man, I'm going to tell you all about the secret history of S.H.I.E.L.D. And like, does it get up its own ass a little bit? I do 100% agree with that. Like, of all the books I read, this is the one where I think, because he's dealing with these like philosophical people and the nature of like defending the world, I think it can get a little heady. But I think the overall nature of it, especially just like with the art again, the what's his name, the Dark Man, the Lightning Man, the Nikola Tesla, that dude, every time he shows up, I'm like, this dude looks so sick. Yeah. This dude is the coolest comic character I've ever seen in my life, and he turns out to be Tesla. So like, I need to read volume 2 to really cement like if this is like not really good plotting, because it really does feel like half a story. Yeah. But I do agree it is kind of wax poetic a little too much, maybe.
I think that for me, one of the things was like, I want to say it's issue 4 or something. It's 4 or 5 where I came out of it and I'm like, did I learn anything this issue? Mm-hmm. I don't know if I really did, or if I did, it was brief. And that it's just kind of, I don't think, was it you, Ben, who made a comparison between David Lynch and Hickman? Did you do that?
Maybe.
I wouldn't dare.
I mean, I feels like something I would say, because I don't know if Ben has ever seen anything.
But it was like in a like slightly passive, like the like a lot of the, I don't engage with a lot of David Lynch kind of way of some of his stuff is just kind of weird for weird's sake.
Oh, sure.
And some of Hickman's stuff like can be said about by other people, things that aren't this story. Yeah. That Hickman sometimes like grand concept sake, or big idea for big idea's sake. Yeah. And I don't feel that way most of the time.
Yeah.
I do feel that way a little bit here.
Sure.
I do feel a little like, all right, we got a little bit beyond ourselves, or at least it's not given enough room to fully breathe for me.
That's fair.
I think the Leonide, like the Leonide thing is a really good point of like, that's kind of like our central character, and I lose track of him completely.
The problem for
often.
Me, and I want to hear from Brandon because this is his book club. But the thing for me about like our main character is like there is a carrot on the stick about who he is and what his powers and what he's all about that we're just not getting answers for a really long time. And like for him to be our main character, like I just need a little bit more, because I love the world that's surrounding us, but he is our focal point, and we are getting answers near the end. but it is like now I have to read the entire other volume to see what this is about. And like I feel like his stuff could have came a little bit sooner.
That's part of my struggle is that I feel like, 6 issues in, and like I don't feel like he's our main. I know he's supposed to be. I don't feel like he's the central character of the story.
Word.
And for me, like it's definitely like it feels like it's coming down to, other than that last issue, that it's pretty much mostly about Leonardo da Vinci and Isaac Newton, and like it's not really about anybody else.
I kind of wish it was just about them because I love Isaac Newton.
I'm a little bit in the same.
I love Isaac Newton being an asshole.
Right now, where I'm at, like I think some of the time stuff too is just like I think the way the issues are structured out is like kind of confusing, and like we're introducing the plot about like Leonid and Tesla's son and all that kind of stuff with Stark and Richards. We won't touch that again until the last issue. And then here we're going to go ahead and do the backstory entirely of Isaac Newton. Here we're going to do Leonardo da Vinci and Isaac Newton talking around the kid. Okay, now it's back to Tesla and all that kind of stuff. And I don't think every bit of that lined up in a way that felt like it wanted me to hold on to Leonid.
Sure.
As our guy.
Yeah.
And that's where I landed with that.
Yeah.
I was so in the copy that I have, this sketchbook, and there's a quote here from Jonathan Hickman that you've reminded me of, Sparks, that I wanted to read, which says, "Beyond being an integral element in the development of the story," this is about Leonid, however you want to pronounce it. Leonid is also a stand-in for us, the reader, as everything plays out. He suggests questions like who these great men really are, what is their legacy, why did they make the world better, and most importantly, what is required and who are we to stand among them. I don't think that comes across in this book. And I agree with that 100%. Reading that made me kind of question what, because I read all the sketchbook stuff. It's very interesting, especially the bit about not Tesla, but Da Vinci has a really interesting bit about with Dustin Weaver, but I'll get to in a moment.
He loves his data pages. I love Hickman.
But reading that, I was just so confused because I didn't think that Leonid was the main character of the story, especially after issue 1, where I just kind of was like, actually, I'm not really interested in this guy. I just mostly just want you to do more stuff with everywhere else. And that's where I fall in this book. That's why I really like it, because much like Ryan, I kind of feel the same way as Ryan does here, where I'm really, the stuff that I find so exciting about Hickman is these kind of big concepts. And I don't get all of them, frankly, and I don't want to. I look at Hickman very much in the same way that I look at Evangelion. Like, I'm not going to get everything that you're going to tell me, but I'm along for the ride, and I really enjoy it. And I kind of feel this way about this book also, because I really like all the philosophical stuff that Da Vinci and what's that guy's name? Newton are dealing with, and I really like Stark and Richards. That actually brings me to something I want to ask you, Ryan. I've not read a lot of Fantastic Four. I've actually only read the first volume of Hickman's Fantastic Four run. I haven't gone forward. Nathaniel Richards here, Reed Richards' father, yes?
Yeah.
Does he have a
Time
superpower?
traveler. He's a time traveler. He's a super genius time traveler.
Okay, so was that established? Was that a Hickman thing, or was that like established? Like,
oh no, that's old school. That's old school stuff.
Okay.
Hickman loves continuity, so he's never retracting. He's always building upon. That is like stuff from like the 80s and stuff.
Okay. I really appreciated that element of the story, bringing in Stark and Nathaniel. They have a conversation in the car.
I love that conversation. I love
Yeah.
Fantastic Four, and I love Iron Man. Like seeing those two guys who are notoriously bad fathers talk about how they're being bad fathers, and one is not trying to be a bad father, and one is like absolutely like a shithead Howard Stark. And I'm like, this is great. I love seeing this. I love this.
Yeah, I really like where Stark says, "I love my family. I do, Nathaniel, but they covet my time, seeking every spare moment for themselves when I know I have more important things to do than play father." Like, he's just a shitty dad. I love it.
Yeah. Who you trying to sell?
The best part to me of that is when he goes on to say that it will make me resent them. And I'm leaving before it becomes something worse.
I'm cutting the problem off before it happens. Like, yeah, you're a smart guy. Yeah.
But yeah, I really like this conversation. This is my favorite character work in the book was between Nathaniel and Howard. I think it's very good. Very well
I
written.
agree. And that's like the Marvel Universe stuff where like it does suck because I do think our main character protagonist guy, like he is the weakest aspect because not only is he just kind of like a wet blanket, but like I don't feel like he himself directly impacts the story. It's a lot of people guiding him and telling him what to do. And like, you have this great power. And like, I am thankful that we got this book just because like seeing like Galileo have to fight Galactus is just an incredible image, an incredible image. Having like this 12th century, like Chinese emperor try to woo a woman celestial. It's like, oh, great celestial, beautiful celestial. And I'm like, this is insane. What is happening in this book? And it's, that celestial's pregnant with a baby and they put that baby into a sun and it's like this is just like ridiculous.
I really like that that like concept of this celestial because she's even talking like all celestials are born from planets. There is a celestial at the center of this earth that will hatch in 1,000,000 years, well past a human's time.
And the guy's like, dude, 1,000,000 years, that's so much time. Thank you so much, 1,000,000 years. We're gonna do so much in 1,000,000 years. No problem.
And she's just like, but I have a problem because I am developing a fetus inside of me, and that's not how celestials are born. And I really like that. I do wish this kind of being a part one, which is unfortunate. I do kind of wish that we got more about that because I like what do they call him, the Star Child?
Yeah, celestial Madonna.
Because Leonardo goes to the sun to find him.
Yeah,
that's so, dude. That art is so good. Dustin Weaver truly kills this book. Like Sparks is right. Like without better art, like this book, I don't think would be as juicy. The art is sensational.
So Dustin Weaver, because you brought that up, I'm going to bring up another quote from this. I really love all the stuff in this book about Leonardo that Dustin Weaver says, which I want to read to you because I think this is incredible. I think the key to making a good comic book hero, one that can fit into the Marvel Universe, is to make him or her larger than life. Da Vinci is actually a natural at being a comic book hero. And then he goes on to say a bit about how he designed. Here's a sketch of Da Vinci. I love his Da Vinci. I think it's
space.
It's the best character model in the book. There's a bit here. There's a bit in this book where he just looks super sexy with this big, flowy, luscious beard.
They sexified him for sure. That's true.
Oh yeah. I will not lie because all I know about Da Vinci is, I mean, obviously his famous portrait, and it's like, he's older. But seeing like a young Da Vinci with the bushiest beard ever, it's kind of reminds me of that scene from SpongeBob where Squidward goes, "Oh no, he's hot."
Look at that. Look at that man.
Oh, dude, totally. He's like a model. Our boy Nosferatu shows up as Pan's Labyrinth Man. Love it. Every famous person we get in there, it's like I think it's cool and used pretty well.
What I appreciate about it is that every famous hero, every famous character is done in a way that it's signifying a superhero has appeared. Like, oh, who are you? I'm the Punisher. I'm Leonardo da Vinci.
Bro, I don't know what this guy's name is. I keep forgetting, the Nightman or whatever, but he's so good.
I think I just looked it up. It's like Dark Man or something. The Dark Man. The Dark Man.
Dark Man. I love it. I think I could rave on and on. And despite not liking our main character, I think when he's like half cosmic the whole time, I think that's just a rad look. That is one of my favorite like aesthetic things, period. It's just like when something has like the cosmos inside of them, like whether it's their eyes or Thor's cape in Fortnite, like it's beautiful stuff.
Look at that man. Look at that beautiful man.
I will 100% agree that this book would have been a lot worse if the art wasn't as good as it is.
Dustin Weaver kills it.
Oh, he does. Yeah. Truly does. And
so
here it comes.
It's just another sun explosion thing.
The origin of the S.H.I.E.L.D. moment with Emotep over the Brood.
I love this page, y'all. So did you guys recognize anyone on this page with Emotep?
Yeah.
Ben, did you recognize anyone with Emotep?
Oh, you mean Apocalypse who was standing right behind him? Yeah,
Not just Apocalypse.
I did. That's Moon Knight, right? The other one?
That dude is Moon Knight.
Yeah,
that dude's
there
Moon
he
Knight.
is. Yep.
But yeah, good job catching Apocalypse. He's Hickman setting this shit up again. This is something he doesn't do for like another 8 years in Hawkspox. But like Apocalypse would be there. That makes sense. He hates the world, but he'd rather save it from aliens, right? So like,
well, what I kind of like about Hickman is Hickman has such a from what I've read sporadic Hickman. I've read a lot of his
You've
stuff
read enough.
throughout all over his career at Marvel, to know that it feels so cohesive when you're reading it all and one go. But what it really is, he has such a deep knowledge of what he thinks the Marvel universe should look like at various points in time. And he's just pulling from that every single time. That's why everything is so consistent. Of course, Apocalypse is there. And of course, Apocalypse and Krakoa know each other. Because in his mind, of course, that's how that worked out.
Absolutely. He's just, he's a guy who just like, not
just
that
gets
anyone doesn't like care, but he's just someone who's just like, he goes the extra mile, and like he is someone who really cares about like making the universe feel complete. And like every issue feel like it takes place in a full world. I think it's really lovely. And again, like S.H.I.E.L.D, this being a book called S.H.I.E.L.D, and when you open it, you expect to see helicarriers, Nick Fury, and you see Leonardo da Vinci and Galileo and Isaac Newton, and you're like, what is going on? And I'm like, it's not a normal comic book that would get made with anybody else, I feel like. And for that alone, this is honestly, it is probably one of his messiest arcs, messiest comic runs that I've read. But like the grand ideas and like a lot of the writing still shines through above a lot of other comics I'd rather read, if I'm being honest. Like I'd rather read this than a traditional good issue of, Superman or Spider-Man or something. You know what I mean?
I wanna point out one thing as far as the traditional S.H.I.E.L.D. book goes, which I noticed that in 1652, Sir Isaac Newton gives Nostradamus the infinity formula that keeps Nick Fury young.
Oh, Brandon, yes, you comic book nerd. That's exactly, yes. I was going to bring that up later. Absolutely. That is the thing that keeps Nick Fury alive. And it is like a shitty version of being immortal. I'm like, look at that. Yeah. It's there.
I just really like that. Sparks, you looked like you wanted to say something a bit ago, and I think I stepped on it. Did you have something you wanted to add?
I just, when I first started the book, I felt like it was going to be kind of like, here's a pocket of like how S.H.I.E.L.D. got here at this point in time. Here's a pocket of how, and that's a little boring, I'll admit. But like, you know, like I thought we were about to be like just like going through the time periods, and it's like this was Da Vinci's time with S.H.I.E.L.D. and this was like in China, like the time with S.H.I.E.L.D. and all this kind of stuff. And I, story-wise, can't say that I wouldn't have probably liked that more.
Sure.
While I do think that's very like rote and just like, here's an issue and it's about this point in time, and here's an issue and it's about, sure. But like you can do cool stuff there. And I think it's because everything about like making Da Vinci and Newton immortal doesn't 100% work for me. I think they both become kind of concepts more than they are men at this point. Well, they're just kind of sitting there as ideas.
I don't think that's a bad thing, though.
And it's
not.
Really,
that's like the final battle. It's literally about the battle of their ideals. I think like is what Lionel that dude's even saying.
Yeah, and I just find it simplistic. I don't like.
I'd rather take that being simplistic than the whole story being simplistic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but Da Vinci's not immortal. He walked through a portal. He walked through a gateway.
Yeah, he time traveled basically.
So he went from his time to our time pretty seamlessly. So he's not necessarily immortal. But you're right that they do. At the end of this, no. Well, you're right. At the end of this, they are just ideals, and we see that in the story of how Newton starts losing followers to his ideals, and it becomes a war of this idea that. S.H.I.E.L.D's rallying cry throughout time has been, this is not how the world ends. And to Da Vinci, that's very important to him. This is not how the world ends because the world will never end. But Newton was like, this isn't how the world ends because we know how it's going to end.
Yeah, so let's just get it over with because we know what's going to happen. And like I think that's like that is two sides of the same coin. Again, it is sloppy, but like I'd rather it be like this than just like I don't know, some random S.H.I.E.L.D. dude. I think it's so much cooler that it's Isaac Newton because that's so dumb.
Isaac Newton is it?
No. I don't mean to say that like I don't want it to be these figures. I think that these figures become less humans and less characters and more mouthpieces of just a concept.
Sure.
In the way that they are written, and that's the part where like it loses me a little bit because even as the maker lives through the entirety of what goes on inside that city in the Ultimates comics, you were still, connected to who the personality of that person is and what's makes them who they are and where they are flawed and where they are not. And it feels very like just Newton is complex in his own time, but not as complex anymore through the flashback story that we have. There's virtually nothing beyond just like rigid belief to him, and it makes him oddly, like, once we had the flashback by comparison, it made him in present day of where we are in the story less compelling.
That's fair.
Sure. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I can't say I saw the same issue, but I think your point is incredibly valid. You
Don't get me wrong. Make Isaac Newton a huge asshole. Make him the maker before the maker, which is clearly the helmet design.
Oh yeah,
the helmet. He loves the helmet.
He's the pre-maker, living in the immortal city. He's the pre-maker, but like, please drag Isaac Newton. He's a piece of shit. Like, go.
One thing I love about it is like when we see Isaac Newton and we get part of his backstory, like when he joins the Brotherhood, he says, he meets Galileo. He's like, I am Galileo. Some have called me master. You all may call me brother. And then when Newton comes up to face Leonardo da Vinci, he says, some of you call me brother, but you call me master. I was like, oh, the switch, because Galileo was like, hey, this is for the betterment. Let's be the shield of the world. Let's like find new things and learn. Whereas Newton's like, I'm just gonna screw all y'all. Isaac Newton is definitely one of those guys where I'm reading this, and you're like, man, this guy is a punk.
Go ahead, Ryan.
No, so that's why we gotta get beaten up.
There's a specific language to heroes and how heroes and villains are drawn in comic books, and Dustin Weaver is very good at that. But I wanted to say I want to show off a couple of one of the variants real quickly. So they did these like the hero variants, which look like this. So you see like Leonardo da Vinci. I want to look at that sexy man. I love it. And then you see Nostradamus. But so you see here you go. My point is Da Vinci. Don't look into his eyes because you'll be hypnotized by how sexy he is. And you look at him; he's very heroic, very big, very broad. They even say in that quote that I started reading, which is that he was a very handsome person, even in his time. And then if you look at Isaac Newton, very villainous, very
red,
very like he just looks slimy. And I think that shines in the character designs, while also not straying too far away from what these characters actually look like, because these are historical beings. We know what they look like, but framing them and drawing them in a comic book format, not in a way that's not a biographical comic book, allows them to take the liberties to make these characters look more heroic or more villainous. And I just realized what Da Vinci looks like to me. Freaking Aquaman from the Stepan Cedric Aquaman run.
Oh yeah. I see it.
Yes, 100%. I was like, man, he looks so familiar.
Just give him some mechanical wings.
It's that beard, man. That beard does wonders.
God, that beard is so good.
Brandon, you brought up Evangelion earlier, and I also brought up Galileo using like a beam to destroy Galactus. He's using the combined energies of like 1,000 people's brains to do like a psychic energy blast. And I'm like, y'all, this is really fun.
That wasn't the first time it happened. The first time it happened, it like melted everyone. Because it wasn't like fine-tuned. It was like she was being really selfish with it or whatever. But this time it worked and fought Galactus. And like the data page after that, which is fun, is a conversation between Newton and the Pope, and and about from henceforth October 4th to October 14th didn't exist.
These 10 days no longer occurred.
Yeah, and that's the whole reason why they changed the calendar. Very funny.
I didn't save the page. But the part where Richards and Stark are with Tesla and they zap him and it's all really bad and things go wrong and you see like all these reaction faces. No, I mean like that's a very good page.
Oh, I didn't know absolutely.
No, it's not the page. This is a very good page around that moment. But
it's the multicolor baboom.
Yeah. I was thinking of the paneling where you see just all these shocked faces and then the only one that says anything is the dove. And the dove says, "Oh no."
Yeah.
And I'm like, What?
that dove has been being weird this whole issue, and then we see it turns out to be like a digital lady, and I'm like, Tesla, who's this dove lady?
But my point being that's like issue 1.
Yeah,
it's like, oh no, and we don't see her again until the second to last issue.
She keeps showing up in the background and stuff, but she's not doing anything.
But you mentioned Tesla and Stark and Richards. I really enjoy the look of the destroyed city, of the abandoned city that they find themselves in, and thousands of years in the future. I think that's a really cool look for a futuristic city.
Absolutely.
I really like what they do with Nostradamus. I think that's very good.
Yeah,
give him a little bit of that eternal life.
Nostradamus is like, I'm not a prophet or a seer. I am a capitalist. I really like that. I like his design. I think is really cool. The way he drinks the immortality and it glows on his arms. All his markings, everything. I think he looks awesome.
To save Nikola Tesla, your father. I don't think she sounds like this.
I want to say that I think it's incredibly funny that George Washington founded the Savage Land.
Yeah, that was an interesting history spread page, wasn't it?
It was indeed.
Yeah.
Let me see it. Oh yeah. Oh, it is the Savage Land. You're right. Yeah,
with the dinosaurs.
Yo, half those people got eaten.
Yeah, 100%.
That's the 10 days we never talk about.
You got the samurai fighting alongside the Nazis.
Hey man.
Yeah, you know,
do what you got to do.
But they have the Spear of Destiny. The Nazis do, which I think is kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
I hate to see it. Man, yeah, I took so many pictures just because the art is just.
It's amazing. It's really great. The section I thought that I really liked is the part where they talk about the previous attempt of like doing what needed to be done by the S.H.I.E.L.D. and it was making the conduit with the second man. That where they like give up all those lives at once. I thought that was just really good. That was a really good story.
I brought it up earlier.
Yeah. I just think that art's really good.
Yeah, the melting skulls is great.
Yeah, very evocative.
I love that Isaac Newton goes to the Deviant City. I think that's great, and that's how he learns a lot of uncouth stuff. And it looks like he gets down and he bangs a deviant, and he says, "I suffered," but he's clearly not suffering.
Oh yeah, I mean yeah.
He's learning stuff. He's learning deviant stuff.
Yeah, and then there's the pregnant deviant lady here.
He said he suffered like on the page where he was made to make love to what he considers a hideous beast.
Oh, okay, yeah. I thought that was like he was joking. Like I suffered. I was actually getting laid. I thought I was doing.
No, I think he hates it. I think he's revolted by it because he, like destroys their whole home and everything.
That's true.
I think he's like it's what I'll do to gain knowledge, but like I hate this.
That makes sense.
Because in the next panel you see him when she's pregnant, like he's there and he's like.
It says, I suffered so that I could gain their knowledge in the next page.
I think he considers that whole time suffering. Like he was like, I was with these abominations.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Because he's a piece of shit.
It's true. Apples and all.
I do really like when he encounters Da Vinci and they speak in hieroglyphs to each other, and that's how he realizes he's Da Vinci.
To make sure he's like a real deal. Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to definitely, because it's only 6 issues more, and that one Infinity issue, which I guess ties into the Infinity Jonathan Hickman events before Secret Wars, so that's fun to see how that all tie in. So this book, the publishing behind it's really interesting because these 6 issues, they didn't come out once per month. They came out bi-monthly. So they came out every 2 months, except for the last 2, which were delayed for a couple more months, right? Then Volume 2, it's bi-monthly, and then the last 2 issues don't come out for like 8 years.
Yeah, it's wild.
Brandon, we talked about this news like 5 years ago. I remember it. It was so long ago. It's like, remember that S.H.I.E.L.D. story? It's finally, those 2 issues are coming out from 2011 to 2019. And it finally got recollected. Now you can just get all of S.H.I.E.L.D. the 1 through 12 if you want. And I'm excited to read all that because like I really like what's going on. I don't have all the answers that I want, so I'm really hoping it can give them to me. What's going on with Michelangelo? Why is he a big sun man?
Yeah, I feel like I'll be compelled to finish this out too because I kind of need to know, like, do I feel like this whole experience was as worthwhile as I wanted it to be?
Yeah.
Certainly artistically, visually, yes. But.
Yeah.
So Ryan is absolutely correct. We talked about when Hickman and Weaver came back to do the final 2 issues of Volume 2. We talked about it, and it was at that moment that I picked this volume up. So I had this since then, and I bought the second volume when it was solicited. I'm really happy I finally got to read it because I knew I would like it, and I'm very happy that I did.
And I'll tell you,
Brandon was scouring the bookshelf last week and went, "Ah,
I haven't read that." and like, what I love about Hickman is like, whether you guys eventually you'll read Fantastic Four, Avengers, his Secret Warriors book, like even some of his X-Men stuff. Like this book stems into all those books too. Like he loves the Marvel universe, but he's also created his own universe within all of his books. So like you'll get like whether how much you like this or not, like there's value for the future of reading other Hickman books.
Sure,
just because like he is a dude who really loves building stuff up. He's not just a one and done guy. He never will ever release something one and done. It's always connected somehow.
Yeah.
I mean, you can make a one-to-one argument just because we read the book last time. I'll bring it up that like Isaac Newton is in many ways a precursor of exactly what Reed would do.
Yeah.
Because like when a man is left to that long of a time of gestating over intelligence, and like obviously Reed has even longer in a sense, but like you kind of just you come to the same like conclusion of the
madness.
Well, I was going to say the lack of value that people that can't see beyond what you believe you see.
Oh, shit. Yeah.
And that's both of them their big flaw.
That is, you are 100% right. I do think he did the Isaac Newton stuff. And he's like, I want to do this again. I want to do this with Reed Richards.
Yeah.
I mean, we even mentioned when we were talking about the book club last time that he very much has the I enjoyed playing with this toy. I'd like to play with it again. And I'll find ways to play with the toy
better.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess that'll do it.
I have one last thing. Comic book dorks of my friendly podcast friends. Was it recorded before this that Galactus was around at this particular time with the Michelangelo and the stuff? Did we know that before Hickman wrote it that Galactus had visited Earth for this attack? Before?
No. This he wrote.
So this is the first.
New. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. There had never been a mention of like Galactus came during like and he's like I'm gonna give an idea of that story. That's
Fantastic Four. Fantastic Four was first Galactus appearance as far as we know until Hickman rewrote it.
That's all I want to know.
He loves a good retcon.
I really loved that Galactus tried to take over the Earth and was beaten by Galileo.
It's inventive and cool either way. I'm not knocking it one way or another. I just wanted to know if this was something where there was some like passive small thing of like knowing that Galactus had visited during this time. And they were like, yes, the might of like our geniuses of the time repelled him and like that kind of thing. Some kind of statement like that. And Hickman picking up the tool and going, yes, I will articulate that. And like, it's fine that he totally came up with it on his own. I just wanted to know if he was utilizing something and expanding upon it in the way that he also can do very well.
Not for that one.
Gotcha.
Okay, so I guess that'll do it.
That will.
S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm definitely will continue to read this because again, it's only 6 more issues. Love Marvel Unlimited.
Yeah. All right. Well, Sparks.
Yes, sir.
We'll be back in another 2 weeks. So it's your book club.
It is indeed. Would you like to know what it is?
I would. I'm dying to know.
Oh, you're dying to know.
Yeah.
You'll be dying to read it and maybe wishing I hadn't picked it. It's going to be 20th Century Men, my friends, written by Dennis Camp, with art by Stephen Morian. So
this one's, I'm just letting you guys know now, it's very spicy.
Okay.
This is a conversation book. We're going to have a conversation about this. Is one of those kind of books.
Gotcha.
Well, Sparks never disappoints when he decides to pick a book.
That's not true.
You always pick the spicy ones, I'll say.
Okay, sure. I pick my stinkers.
We've all picked stinkers. That happens.
All right, so that'll do it, guys. That was S.H.I.E.L.D.
Never forget that I threw the pride into the roulette wheel.
Oh, that's right. I remember.
Pride wasn't that bad. It was just kind of boring.
Yeah.
I probably picked more stinkers than all of you. All right.
Yeah, I don't think so. But anyways.
Ben's like, I have you beat. All right. That was S.H.I.E.L.D. Architects of Forever. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll be back next time for 20th Century Men. Spark said. Also, be on the lookout for Wasted Space, Volume 4. That is in the near future. We don't have a hard time when that will be out, but stay tuned for it. It is coming. Make sure to subscribe to this feed for all of that fun jazz.
That is our separate roulette wheel rotation.
Yeah. And there's more book club stuff coming. So definitely stay tuned. This feed is going to be very active if you are a comic book fan, and if you're not, please join us and welcome if you're for the first time. Cool. So that's everything, guys. A couple of our shows are on hiatus due to the strike, so be sure to check out fakenerdpodcast.com, which is linked below, for all the information of where you can find every single one of our shows, including the ones that are on hiatus due to the strike. There are a few that aren't, such as this show, Basement Arcade, and Basement Arcade Pause Mini, which new episodes are coming up soon if you're video game inclined. But of course, you can check out our main show, our mothership show, Fake Nerd Podcast, where all the shows come from. Fake Nerd Podcast is currently on a bi-weekly schedule as well because of the strikes. Just kind of limits what we can talk about right now because we are in full support of these strikes. So make sure that you guys, if you are also in support of them, be checking out the links that we've supplied for you guys and find ways to support. Please help out the strikers. We're 100% in support. But like I said, the Fake Nerd Podcast is on a bi-weekly format currently. That's it. Of course, check out our TeePublic and our Patreon, which is all linked below, as well as on our website, which again is fakenerdpodcast.com. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all at Fake Nerd Podcast, fakenerdguys@gmail.com. I'm at BT McLaurin on Instagram and Twitter. You can also find me writing for CBR.com, AtomicGeekdom.com, and KaijuRamenMedia.com. Ben, where can people find you?
You can find me on the internet at BenMagnet27, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Threads, and you can find me writing for Old School Gamer Magazine, Fusion Gaming Magazine, GoNintendo.com, and playing Mary Frankenstein in D and Dark.
Sparks?
You can find me asking for the word at Sparks Witty on Instagram, Twitter, SPRKZ Witty from Nostradamus.
Oh, I was about to say the bird.
Me too.
I was
The word.
And Ryan.
Hey, you can find me just I don't know, traveling through time, hopefully not abandoning my family like a certain Stark person. Add DJ Tony Snark everywhere. I got rid of the 616. Back to normal, baby.
There you go. All right, guys, make sure to subscribe to this.
Ignore the 616 below.
Ignore it. Ultimate all the way.
Of course, you can check out. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast feed and rate and review wherever you get us. Like this video, subscribe to this channel. Make sure you subscribe to YouTube. Whatever. Until next time you see us, guys, stay fake nerds.
And always Fortnite after this. I'm just saying. We're actually all available for once.
That's true.
If Ben's not too tired.
He just told me he was going to go play Tears of the Kingdom after this.
Oh, okay. Then I don't feel bad about suggesting.
Wait, are you drinking an energy drink at 10 o'clock at night? Ben.
He's got to get back on his work schedule. Like,
oh, sure. Yeah.
Got to get back
till 5.
Got to get back in the groove.
Also, I took a line. I was asleep on the car ride home from Vegas today. So
there you go.
Respect.
I had a,
And you still need an energy drink?
Fortnite is definitely.
I was almost falling asleep in bed, just chilling on my phone, looking at TikTok. So yes.